Who is Rahu? He is the eclipse shadow, the shadow of the moon which moves across the sun. In astrological symbolism, the moon represents the mind or ego, and the sun represents the true self, the spiritual self, as well as the higher self, the universal self. The sun represents the true nature of the soul and of the unity of all reality going back to our source. Rahu is the darkness of our own minds, the illusion our minds project upon the world. This illusion creates an environment of fear. In traditional Indian culture, eclipses are fearful times where people perform rituals and chant mantras to protect themselves from the evil influence upon the environment. However, eclipses are also a beautiful natural event, anticipated and watched by millions worldwide. This culminates in the moment when the sun re-emerges from behind the dark shadow of the moon. Rahu represents not merely the darkness which covers the sun, but the darkness one must penetrate to find the sun again, to re-emerge into the light stronger than before. He represents the darkest part of our psyche, which if confronted and penetrated, if overcome, leads to the emergence of light. Thus, Rahu is at the very center of the process of rebirth and spiritual evolution. In this video, I will discuss how Rahu represents darkness and fear, and the swirling currents of negative karma within us, how planets become entrapped in that darkness, how we attempt to bury within us, and how Rahu impels us to build structures and false personas we present to the world. I will discuss the Rahu period and the Rahu and Ketu maturations. I will discuss how Ketu is the key to overcoming Rahu within us. If Rahu is the moon devouring the sun, Ketu is the sun breaking free and being born again. Let us begin by discussing the symbolism of the sun. The sun represents the divine unity of all creation and the divine within us, of which we are a spark. If one consults the Vedas, the Upanishads and Vedanta, as well as the various mystical traditions of the world, a picture of the true spiritual nature of reality emerges. The absolute truth or Brahman has an internal and external nature. The internal nature is Nirguna Brahman, without qualities. The external nature is Saguna Brahman, with qualities. Nirguna Brahman is formless, eternal, unchanging, immutable and immovable. It is akin to the monad or one of Neoplatonism, or the ain of Kabbalah. According to Sufi traditions, the formless absolute desires to know itself, to express itself within creation, within form, to reveal its potential, to let its hidden treasure be known. Thus arises Saguna Brahman, which looks back upon Nirguna Brahman and perceives the hidden qualities which lie within. In perceiving these qualities, it gives rise to creation, through the divine mind or intellect, expanding as archetypes, shining like the sun. Into creation, the Absolute further expands as innumerable small portions of itself. These are portions of the one supreme sun, smaller rays of light emanating from the sun. The purpose of these rays is to shine into creation, outward and away from their source, and then to return to their source through a process of soul evolution. This earth is the furthest point from the source, where creation is densest and forgetfulness is strongest. It is here the soul can experience illusion. The soul can forget its true nature as one with everything. It can forget the divine nature of all reality. However, the soul is not satisfied in this forgetfulness. It begins to recognize its true nature and to feel uncomfortable within illusion. It recognizes it has become entangled in negative emotions such as fear, anger, hatred, greed, lust, and feels they are not its true nature. Thus begins the long journey of extracting itself from illusion. This can take many lifetimes. In between lifetimes, there are often reprieves in astral realms of healing and learning. Each life is arranged to give further lessons on this path of return. When we are ready, a life is constructed which will mirror our past consciousness back to us, giving us an opportunity to make new choices. Here we come to Rahu. Within the astrological chart, Rahu represents our darkest illusion. Rahu is Maya. Rahu is avidya. Rahu is the ignorance of spiritual truth and the darkness it creates within us. It is this darkness we are seeking to overcome over many lifetimes in our quest to find ourselves. Liberation from samsara is the dissipation of Rahu. Rahu can be thought of as the final lesson before we have progressed spiritually enough so that we no longer have to incarnate within this world to learn. Most people are slowly working their way towards these lessons. They may focus on lessons peripheral to Rahu, such as learning how to have proper relationships or to be responsible and care for others, not to argue or fight. These lessons are often visited again and again. Each time the soul works through mental, emotional, and finally spiritual solutions to these problems. Along these journeys, souls will occasionally touch upon lessons of Rahu. These lessons are extremely painful and first taken in small doses. Those souls who have learned the outer lessons are ready to approach Rahu directly. often have multiple planets conjunct Rahu. The Rahu period and Rahu maturation are strongly represented in their lives. Other elements of the chart, such as the Sade, will serve to open up the person to their Rahu experiences. We often think persons who are living saintly lives as temple priests and yogis are the most spiritually advanced persons. But in truth, the drug addict or homeless man struggling through his Rahu issues may be tackling the deepest lessons of incarnation. He may be cleaning up after many lifetimes and closing the door behind him. What are these lessons of Rahu? Rahu is the darkest shadow of material illusion, where we forget the true spiritual nature of reality all around us. We do not see the unity of all things. We do not see that all things are Brahman, Purusha, the source, or God, as texts such as the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita remind us. This is a thick, impenetrable blackness that covers the soul. Use your imagination to create a picture of that darkness as a silent, all-consuming shadow that stretches across the land. Above the shadow is storm system, a thick black mass of clouds in the night with lightning flashing through them. The wind is screaming in your ears. This is a cloud of fear. More than fear, it is terror. This is the most painful part of ourselves. It is the part of ourselves we would rather die than make contact with. Here we store our fundamental fear of death, our fear of loss, our fear of dissolution. These fears arise from forgetting our true spiritual, eternal nature. It is these fears which are at the foundation of much of our psychological distress. These storm cloud becomes a repository of fears and traumas from many lifetimes. Within these clouds lurk monsters, the forgotten memories of many painful and shocking deaths. These experiences of pain and terror are imprinted upon the soul. Part of our spiritual journey is to heal them. Here we also store the pain of childhood trauma, the terrible things which have happened to us, which we bury within, and which were never healed. These must be brought to the surface to be re-experienced and processed without judgment in an environment of unconditional love and acceptance. Turn your eyes upward, and you will see extending high into the sky, arising from the storm, a raging tornado. This tornado draws its power from the storm of fear below. It can be thought of as a swirling mass of consciousness, which entraps us and drags us down. This tornado begins when, driven by fear, we use certain parts of our personality, certain planets, to try and protect ourselves. Rather than confronting the fear, experiencing it, and letting it go, and overcoming it with divine knowledge, we hide the fear, we bury it within, and acting out of fear, we seek to protect ourselves. The planets that are conjunct Rahu within our birth chart are the parts of ourselves we have used in fear. We have used them incorrectly in ways that harmed ourselves and others. Astrologers will often say these planets are weak or undeveloped. This is true. It is more accurate to say we have misused these planets, and they are lacked in a cycle of negative karma and bad consciousness. These planets are within the tornado, forming it and shaping it with their qualities. The tornado blows winds in many directions. Some winds are trapped in a circular motion, going around and around. Some winds are sucked downward towards the center, the source of the maelstrom. Other winds travel outward, cast off into the sky and across the ground where they cause tremendous destruction. The winds that blow in a circular motion represent the tendency to become habituated and attached to the bad habits represented by the Rahu position. We first use these planets to defend against the pain and fear. Now we rely on them to hide from the pain and fear. They give us a false sense of security. Thus we become addicted and bound to them. The winds also pull us downward. We cling to these behaviors for shelter from the fear, and yet they ever draw us downward into the fear. We are hopelessly dragged into the lowest expressions of ourselves. It is almost impossible to resist this downward binding current, to rise through the top of the storm, to free ourselves until we have discovered the liberating quality of Ketu. Tornadoes throw off lateral winds, like the spin cycle on a washing machine. These are known to tear apart farmhouses and throw trucks for hundreds of yards. Similarly, the cycle of Rahu's addictions and compulsions throws off negative karma. Our actions cause suffering to ourselves and others. In future births, we take on life lessons that center around making amends for these mistakes. Our lives become lesson plans, which, if understood in the light of wisdom, reveal our own negative consciousness and lead to a reform of personality. For much of our lives, we are unwilling to deal with this storm within. We dig a large pit in the subconscious, place the storm within it, and bury it. On top of the pit, we build elaborate structures of egotism. These are meant to shield us and defend us from the pain within our own subconscious. These structures mimic the qualities within us, the planets that are weak and undeveloped and caught within the storm. We will present to the world an image of those planets, shining, resplendent, and strong. Developing those qualities for real is possible, the most difficult thing one could do in life. It requires that we open the pit, descend into the tornado, the storm, and the darkness, and bring the light of healing and knowledge. We would need to release those planets from the storm and make them whole. We are often unready to do this until later in life. Instead, we strive to achieve those qualities without truly earning them. We may fanatically pursuing these qualities, but in an external, shallow way, which is not true to ourselves. We wish to attain these qualities without truly earning them. This is driven by a deep subconscious fear that nags at the periphery of conscious awareness. We know we are weak. There is a lack of confidence that we are not ready to address. Instead, we overcompensate by creating a false image of those qualities. We pretend. All the while, the tempest rages within. Despite our best efforts to truly attain to the qualities we desire, we are dragged helplessly downward. We become a hypocrite, pretending to have the qualities we strive for, while secretly or privately falling into patterns of behavior we are ashamed of. Our true hidden nature often expresses those qualities in a crude, twisted way that is destructive. Thus, Rahu is associated with the story of Mohini Murti in the Puranas. Rahu is a demon who pretends to be a god. He sits among the gods, such as the sun and moon, and steals the nectar of immortality. Rahu is a fraud and cheater. The Lord of Rahu is also important. His house and sign placement will show where and how this drama of addiction compulsion plays out. It will also show how the life of egoistic pretense we build is expressed. If Rahu is not conjunct any planets, then his sign placement, the placement of his Lord, should be seen. His house placement will show the environment in which this masquerade is performed, and the house lords he is conjunct will show the players and set pieces. The planets with Rahu will also show the individuals in our life who helped to shape this dynamic within us. These are the karmic players who recreated this storm inside of us, to storm of previous lives so that we may work through it. When the Rahu period arrives, beginning with Rahu Mahadasha and Rahu Antardasha, this play and its set pieces are burned to the ground. We are usually the one holding the torch. Others may not understand why. They cannot see that deep within the ground has begun to shift. There is an earthquake. The soul is awakening. The soul is shrugging off the darkness within. The rifts within the ground begin to open. The Rahu period will eventually open the pit. Our deepest darkness and fear will be revealed to us. So begins the journey of descending into the depths. We must grab our rope and headlamp and prepare for the most profound journey of our lives. We often descend immediately to the bottom. We must heal the pain and fear. We must bring light to the darkness. We must liberate the planets trapped in the cycle of negative karma and make our way back to the surface, stronger and restored to true health. We are who we only pretended to be. The Rahu subperiods will cycle through the planets in our chart, providing experiences according to their unique placement. These propel us towards the resolution of Rahu in their own unique ways, creating the often bumpy road we will travel through this important part of our soul evolution. Similarly, the Rahu maturation happens after the age of 42. When Rahu matures, we are now courageous enough and willing to take the journey into the heart of Rahu. Depending on the depth of the soul's experience and its eagerness to evolve, we will experience the Rahu portions of our lives differently. Some will only have a taste, others will dive straight to the bottom and emerge new beings, ready for a life of healing and compassion. The Rahu maturation is associated with the midlife crisis. Many people will no longer be willing to maintain false pretenses. They find they have lived their lives to please others or to match an ideal imposed upon them. They wish to now live in a way more authentic to themselves. They finally buy that sports car, leave that miserable marriage, or abandon their career to do what they always wanted. For some, this signals a willingness to go inward, to no longer hide from their fears, and to approach their hidden issues. For others, they have tasted their fears, such as the fear of impending death, and they are responding by letting go of pretense and finally revealing the swirling chaos within. This leads to the Ketu maturation after the age of 48. Rahu and Ketu are often represented as a dragon, a euphemism for a comet. Rahu is the head of the comet, driving us forward into repeated births and deaths. Ketu is the tail of the comet, dissipating into nothingness. Ketu is the balancing force of Rahu. He allows us to overcome and heal the Rahu storm within. Ketu brings the change of weather. He scatters the storm, leaving the peace and beauty. He is the sunrise, shining upon blades of grass heavy with droplets of water. He removes the darkness with spiritual knowledge. He is the recognition that all things are part of the divine whole, including ourselves and others. He is the recognition that the divine is control. We can let go and surrender to whatever the universe has arranged for us. Most importantly, he is the acceptance and surrender to our own death and dissolution. He is the end of resistance, the end of fighting, the end of struggling to survive. Ketu is ego death. He is dying before dying, the acceptance of what is, the release of all attachment. Ketu is letting go and letting God. This surrender is difficult to achieve. It is contrary to everything that motives us, and yet it drives away the deepest fear within us. When this storm of fear is dispelled, the tornado dissipates. The planets conjunct Rahu are freed. The natural pattern of life pushes us towards achieving this, or a glimpse of this, after the age of 48. It is then that we begin to enter old age, where we will inevitably be faced with disease and death. Ketu is preparing us, teaching us to let go, and to accept these things that are, or as the will of God. We give up struggle and cultivate detachment. Perhaps this is why our lives on earth are programmed with the inevitability of old age, disease, and death. They are the grounds to learn the greatest lesson of life, how to attain liberation from the cycle of birth and death, the lesson that frees us, the lesson of surrender.